Welcome to Thoughts and Theories. Why do humans fear death more than anything else? It's strange, isn't it? We live in a world where almost everything we do seems to be a way of avoiding death, directly or indirectly. We work to earn money to survive. We build houses to protect ourselves. We create medicines to fight disease, and we tell stories, write books, and make art to make sure we're remembered when we're gone. Death, somehow, sits quietly at the center of everything we do, even when we don't talk about it. But why does it scare us so much? After all, we've all seen it happen. It's natural, inevitable, universal, yet it still feels like the one thing we're never truly ready for. Let's explore why. One reason is obvious. It's the end of experience. When you die, everything stops. You don't see, you don't feel, you don't think. It's complete nothingness, and the human brain isn't built to comprehend nothingness. We can imagine darkness, we can imagine silence, but we can't imagine not being there to see or hear it. Try it. Try to imagine what it feels like to not exist. You can't, because the very act of imagining assumes that you exist to imagine it. That's the paradox of human consciousness. We can imagine everything except our own absence. This inability to imagine non-existence creates what philosophers call existential fear. It is not just fear of pain or fear of dying badly. It is fear of not being. It's the fear that all your memories, your feelings, your thoughts, your entire world will vanish, as if you were never here at all. For religious people, death often comes with a story. Heaven, reincarnation, an afterlife. Something to soften the blow of non-existence. But for those who don't believe in an afterlife, death means a hard truth. Once it's over, it's over. And that truth, while simple, can feel unbearable. But fear of death isn't only about non-existence, it's also deeply social and emotional. We fear losing the people we love. We fear being forgotten. Think about how much of our lives are built around trying to matter, to make an impact, to be remembered, to leave something behind. We name children after our parents. We build monuments. We record our lives online. We chase fame and recognition. All of this is an unconscious rebellion against death. It's our way of saying, I may die, but a part of me will live on in some form. The ancient Greeks understood this well. Achilles, in the Iliad, was told he could live a long, quiet life or die young but be remembered forever. He chose to die young. Why? Because for him, being forgotten was worse than dying. This tells us something profound. Humans don't just fear death, they fear meaninglessness. The idea that life ends and then nothing. No memory, no legacy, no purpose. That's what really haunts us. Modern psychology supports this too. There's a concept called terror management theory. It says that almost all human culture, religion, politics, art, morality, is built to manage our fear of death. We create beliefs and systems that give life meaning, so we don't have to face the raw truth that one day it ends. For example, when people are reminded of death, even subtly, studies show they become more protective of their beliefs, more nationalistic, more religious, or more devoted to their values. It's like the mind's emergency defense mechanism. Faced with death, it clings to something eternal. But here's an interesting thought. Maybe our fear of death is also what gives life intensity. If we lived forever, would anything really matter? Would we love as deeply if we knew we had infinite time? Would we create art, explore, learn, or risk anything if there were no end? Mortality gives urgency to everything. It turns moments into something precious because we know they can't last. That's why sunsets, goodbyes, and childhood memories feel bittersweet. Beauty mixed with awareness that they'll never come back. There's a story about a Buddhist monk who once said, "We fear death because we think we own life." It's an interesting perspective. We think of life as something that belongs to us, something we can control. But life is more like a wave. It rises, shines for a while, and fades back into the ocean. If we understood life as a temporary expression rather than a possession, death might not seem like theft, but completion. Still, this is easier said than done. Modern society hides death. We don't see it every day like people did in the past. In older times, people died at home, surrounded by family. Cemeteries were near towns, and death was a familiar part of daily life. Today, death is sanitized. It happens in hospitals, behind curtains, spoken about in hushed tones. We scroll past it in headlines but rarely confront it personally until it happens to someone close. This distance makes it even more frightening because it becomes mysterious, almost taboo. The less we face something, the more power it holds over us. There's also the fear of losing control. Death is the ultimate reminder that we're not in charge. No matter how advanced science gets, no matter how rich or smart we are, we can't bargain with death. For a species obsessed with control, of nature, of time, of each other, death feels like the final defeat. That's why we spend billions on anti-aging research, cryonics, and digital immortality projects. We're not just trying to live longer, we're trying to beat death at its own game. Yet every generation has tried, and every generation has failed. Interestingly, some cultures view death differently. In Japan, for example, there's the concept of mono-no-aware, the awareness of life's impermanence, which brings a kind of gentle sadness but also appreciation. In Mexico's Day of the Dead, people celebrate death, decorate graves, and share food and memories as if the boundary between life and death is thin but friendly. These perspectives show that fear of death isn't universal. It's shaped by culture. Some societies teach people to accept it, others to deny it. But for most of us today, especially in secular modern life, we've built a world that runs from death. We distract ourselves with entertainment, work, or endless scrolling. Anything to avoid silence where thoughts about mortality might sneak in. Yet deep down, that fear still shapes everything. The way we fall in love, the way we build careers, the way we chase purpose, all of it is in some way a response to the awareness that time is running out. There's a paradox here. The same fear that makes us anxious also makes us human. If we didn't fear death, we might not have created civilization, art, or philosophy. Every great thinker, from Socrates to Camus, has wrestled with this question: how should we live knowing that we must die? And maybe that's the right question to ask, not how can I avoid death, but how can I live so that death doesn't make life meaningless? When you realize that every moment is fragile, it changes how you live. You start to see that the small things, a conversation, a walk, a song, aren't small at all. They're the pieces of the only life you'll ever have. And strangely, when people truly accept death, they often report feeling more alive. Think of terminally ill patients who suddenly live with new clarity, or people who've had near-death experiences and come back grateful for things they used to overlook. Facing death often makes people more compassionate, more creative, more awake. It strips away trivial worries and focuses attention on what matters. So maybe the goal isn't to eliminate the fear of death, but to understand it. To let it remind us that life isn't something we own, but something we experience for a short, mysterious while. Death isn't the enemy of life. It's the reason life has meaning. The ticking clock doesn't ruin the song. It gives it rhythm. In the end, every human story ends the same way, but what makes it beautiful is how we fill the pages before it ends. Maybe that's the real lesson in our fear. It's not just about the end, but about making sure that before that end comes, we've truly lived. So the next time the thought of death crosses your mind, don't push it away. Let it remind you, this moment, right now, is the only eternity you'll ever have.